Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you. I am working with a cut file from the Cut Shop. This is one of the newer cut files that has just been released earlier this month. This one's called Let's Party, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted to use it, and I wasn't sure for what layout. I had a couple of pictures in mind, and I end up changing my photos as we go here, but I wanted you to see how I go ahead and take care of backing this cut file. Now you wouldn't have to back this cut file, but I just liked the idea of adding pops of color throughout the page. So I have a 6x6 pad here. I really like to use 6x6 pads to back cut files because the patterns in them are smaller than the 12x12 pages, and so it just lends itself better to putting little pops of color behind each one of these little scallops. So I'm using, it's Maggie Home Flourish by Crate Paper. I'm using that, and I use pretty much, that's all I use, I think, for this whole layout. I really enjoyed working with this collection. I've worked with it a couple of different times so far, and I'm really enjoying it. Now, I think that blue piece right there is actually one of the 12x12 papers, and but it worked out just fine. I wanted these pops of blue because at the time I was thinking I was going to be using these 5 photos of my daughter and her cousin, and she is wearing blue. And so my idea was I was going to use some reds or pinks, some blues, some greens, and because these were taken in nature, I was thinking the Maggie Holmes collection would work quite nicely because it has so many gorgeous florals and such, but I don't end up using any of what you see except for the cut file backed. I changed the background paper to one of the pattern papers actually from the Maggie Holmes collection, and then what you saw me doing there was I was taking some, oh, what is it called? Foam adhesive, and it's just cheap foam, craft foam from Michael's, and I popped up the entire cut file. So I didn't show that all on camera because that's also kind of boring, just like going ahead and backing the cut file, but you got the idea of how I was doing that. So sometimes when I back cut files, I just glue it down and then cut around it, or I trace it with a pencil. This time I saved the inside of one of those little half circles, and I used it kind of as a little template. You probably saw me doing that earlier, and cut it just a little bit bigger than the cutout, and then went ahead and used that and I don't think I even had to trim any of them. They all worked quite nicely. So that's another method. It just kind of depends on what the cut file is like, what kind of places you're trying to fill. But anyway, so I've backed my cut file and I've changed my picture. I've changed this to a photograph. It's a black and white photo of my mom and my younger daughter, and they are dancing. We had gone out to a show, and before the show we went out to eat, and we took my mom, and she doesn't get to go very often, and so it was kind of a special occasion. And as we were waiting to pay for the bill, there was music playing, and B was getting a little antsy, I would say. And so my mom is the best mom, but also one of the best grandmas ever, and so she just gets up with her and they start dancing, and this picture was snapped. And so I super love the photo, and I may end up scrapping it like 9 times, and I almost never scrap a photo on purpose anyway, twice, but I might scrap this one over and over because I just love the photo. The light's beautiful, and anyway. Okay, so what you're seeing me do here is I'm just trying to figure out what my layers are, and I grabbed the bluish purple kind of periwinkle blue sort of that's in the collection. I grabbed the 6x6 of the floral in that, and I fussy cut a whole bunch of little flowers. Well, not a whole bunch, probably like 6 little flowers out of that 6x6 pad. And now I'm just trying to decide what I want on my layers. This is one of the cut apart, this is a card from one of the cut apart pages in the collection, and I am not using the card, but I am using the sentiment, the words that are on the card, And I just cut those up and I end up putting those on the flowers eventually. And I stitch them down kind of because I'm using one of the stitched stickers there right beside my photo down there at the bottom. And so I thought up at the top, it would be nice to have the words stitched onto the flower. You'll see me, I don't actually stitch them on camera, but you'll see, I try to show you, I think. So anyway, so I'm going through the ephemera and I'm finding tags and I'm finding all kinds of different pieces that I can use as yummy layers underneath my photo. You saw me use my tiny attacher there to staple those layers together. What I'm going to try to do here is kind of layer all of this and glue it together so that it's all together and I can move it as one piece. I haven't completed my ideas, my thought process isn't all the way through, but I know I do want to do some layering and I know I want to use these flowers. So I want to be able to make some changes if I need to. So I'm just using that stapler. That's one of the reasons. But the other reason is because if you use a stapler to attach the things in the middle like that, then it's much, much easier to add layers between the layers. So those flowers that I'm adding, it's much easier to add those flowers under the photo and in between the layers than if you glue it together. So I decided, you know what, that banner keeps moving, I need to glue it down. So I go ahead and cut the branding strip off, and now I removed everything. And that was one of the reasons that I stapled things together and got things together, because I knew I needed to glue it down, so I wanted to kind of be able to move things. So at this point I decide I'm going to cut that tag because I decided it's a little too long, but then I end up gluing it back together. So you'll see, well, gluing it to the page together. And so it was a mistake, and I figured it out right away, but I end up using the banner. Oh, I ran out of glue, too, of course. When you're filming, you always run out of glue. So I decided to just add that, and then when I did that, I could just put some of that banner over the line where I cut it, if that makes sense, and then you can't even tell. And I kind of put the flowers over part of it, too. So anyway, little mistake. So what I'm doing is I'm going through with my liquid glue and I'm attaching, I don't think I glue every single piece of foam, but I glue many pieces of that foam. And I end up, some of it soaks in, and so I had to go back and add some more glue layer, but that's okay. I apologize that the bottom part of this layout is on off camera. I'm not sure what happened with my setup that caused that, but I think I figured it out at the very, 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 very end. So in a few minutes here, I'm going to shut off the camera and I'm going to stitch down those words on that rose, and then when I come back there, I've got that stitched down now. So now I'm kind of going through some more of the ephemera and the stickers and trying to decide if I have enough stuff, enough layers. I'm adding a little bit of tissue paper behind my photo and roughing it up a little bit. I love that black pattern with the floral on it, but I wanted it to be a little softer, so this helps with that. Okay, so now I'm just going to pop up my layers there so that since the cut file is popped up off the page, I needed to pop up the picture a little bit there in the middle so that it would stick down and be even. And now I'm just kind of auditioning some different things. I haven't completely decided my title yet, but I do end up deciding to just go really, really simple and decided to use the word dance, which I'm using the alphas. I believe these are actually from the collection too, these thickers, and they are kind of copper colored, and there is some copper like in some of the layers as well, and so I thought these would be perfect to kind of help, bring that other part out. So I kind of mess around a little bit with the placement of that, and then I end up deciding to go right there. I moved it up and down a few times, but so now I'm kind of finished. I have pretty much everything laid down. Excuse me, not laid down, but glued down. And what I'm doing here is I decided that it needed some sort of a border. Most of my layouts end up with some sort of a border. In this case, I decided to go ahead and do a ripped border at the top and just at the top and at the bottom. Missy Whitten does this. I've done it a lot of times too. She's been doing it lately. I've been on a kick lately using that same idea, usually just on one side of the page, but I don't know. I don't know if I stole it or if I saw it somewhere and just liked it. But I've noticed the last couple of videos or layouts that I've seen of hers has had them as well, so that's kind of funny. Anyway, so now I'm just going to glue all of the big pieces down that I already have kind of stuck together. I need to add a little bit of thread, Missy Whitten style, adding some thread behind like 2 of the flowers, I think, or no, 3 of the flowers. I think I do it in 3 different places. So I do it between the flowers over there on the right, and then under the flowers in between the flowers, I'm sorry, up at the top again, and then under the flower right by the title that says dance. Sometimes the strings on the tags or even on the thread, I like to just put a little dab of glue to help it kind of shape where it lays down. So that's what I'm doing there. So the close-ups are coming up here pretty quickly. All I do that is left, I think, is add a few little misty droplets of, I think, pink. I use a pink and a red and a black, all shimmers. And then I just wipe that off or, dab it up a little bit, and that's it. So here come the close-ups. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about any products or any techniques that I used today, just let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to help answer that question. So there's that cut file. That's awesome. And there's my layers. All right, thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.